What's going on, ladies and gents, boys and girls, guardians of all ages? Joker back again once again, and today, people, we're here to talk about hype, or UC. Hype is the mind killer. Hype is the little death that brings about total obliteration. I will face the hype. I will permit it to pass over and through me. When the hype is gone, there shall be nothing. Only I will remain. So with Season 17, which at the time of recording, we have no idea what it's called, Season of the... hell, at this point, given what we know about the season, we might as well call it Season of the Nickel and Dime, Season of the Microtransaction, Season of the Cost. With Season of the Cost, Bungie appears to be waiting to the 59th minute in the 11th hour to show us anything. Bungie is playing their cards very close to their chest.
But Joker!
I hear you cry out in your shrill, tremulous voice.
Bungie's talked a lot about this season.
Yes, but and no, and mostly in the no category. They've talked about a dungeon, which is sold separately. They've talked about their event pass, which is sold separately. They've talked about changes to Iron Banner and shown off some loot for Trials of Osiris. There's more vault space and some changes to the PvP sandbox. So when you look through the totality of things that Bungie has talked about, the only real thing they've talked about that pertains to the season people are actually buying is that Trials of Osiris is getting new armor. I see this argument a lot. Conflating things that are sold separately, or systems and quality of life updates, or sandbox changes with the actual content being paid for. Don't get me wrong, those are cool things, but they're also different conversations. Bungie could have put out a trailer or a 20-minute Vidoc, and that trailer and that Vidoc could have only talked about the new changes to Iron Banner, the new changes to the sandbox, the new forms of monetization, and people would still be upset, and not without justification. See, it's not about getting a teaser trailer, as so many people have boiled this down to. It's about people wanting to know what they're being asked to spend their money on, or people wanting to know what they've already spent their money on. And you can go,
But Joker, if you're worried about it or if you don't know, then why did you pre-order? Why did anyone pre-order? You shouldn't pre-order.
and hey, you might have a point. Even more respect if you don't fit in the middle of the Venn diagram of people saying you shouldn't have pre-ordered and people who defended Bungie and Bungie's whole if you don't pre-order Witch Queen and a year of content in advance, sight unseen, you're going to be punished in the future by being forced to spend more for the same content. So there's a lot of people who really want to know what their money went towards. And can you blame them? Now, people are under the misguided impression that I'm a Destiny hater. It really doesn't seem to matter how many positive videos about Destiny I make. Spend 2 to 4 minutes giving your opinion about Bungie's latest and greatest monetization scheme in a video about a weekly update where that scheme is announced and all that goodwill is undone. Ah, who am I kidding? These people don't actually watch my videos, they just read the titles and get upset. But hey, fucking details. I only point this out because in this video, we're going full Destiny Defense Force as we play Devil's Advocate for Bungie. What is Season 17's content? Why is there no trailer?
Why are we still here? Just to suffer.
So I think we can boil Bungie's choice not to show off Season 17 until the 11th hour down to one of 3 things. So without further ado, let's dive into the theory crafting and try to figure out why Bungie hasn't shown off Season 17. Number 1, so there's been a lot of requests for things like Siva to return, which is entirely possible. If we look at the lore, there's a bunch of Siva on the Exodus Black. And it's been a while since we've done anything on Nessus, or with it, and even longer since Failsafe was part of the narrative. On top of that, over a year ago, Season of Arrivals left off with Rasputin's mind being placed in an engram, and with Anna Bray trying to build him an exo body, harkening back to a cut story idea from Destiny 1 when Rasputin was an exo. It would make sense that Anna would want us to go and retrieve Siva to help achieve restoring Rasputin. Now, Nessus itself, narratively speaking, has a lot going on. It's a conduit to the Vex network. The Leviathan, last time we saw it, was devouring the world. Hypothetically speaking, you could have the Leviathan come back and have a story where we're fighting Fallen, Vex, and Cabal loyal to Callus for Siva to help Anna and Mithrax restore Rasputin. Another possibility could deal with the return of Osiris. For those of you who do not know, Osiris's mind is broken, and he's currently in a coma. It wouldn't be unreasonable to have us go to Nessus and within the Vex network there, try to see if there's any copies of Osiris left. While Osiris has been lightless for a year, the Vex network is a conjunction of the past, of the present, of the future, of possibilities. You gotta remember, according to Destiny lore and the way that time travel works, the Saint 14 that we have is not actually our Saint 14. Because of Destiny's string theory nature of how time travel works, our Saint 14 is still dead. We just did a bit of cosmic fuckery and pulled a Saint 14 from another timeline. There's no reason we couldn't do the same for Osiris's mind. In fact, the pulling of blueprints from other timelines to rebuild Guardians already exists within the lore, at least as a theory. In the lore card No Res for the Weary, a Guardian is trapped in a space-time anomaly, and their ghost can't revive them. The card states, certain members of a cult I shall not directly name have their own specific interpretation of the process. When you bring him back, they told me, you must have a template, an image, to provide you with the information you need. Where do you find that template? Simply in a neighboring timeline, a place where he's still alive and intact. So it's not unreasonable to assume that some Mithrax technomancy and a trip to the Vex network or Siva could help rebuild Osiris's mind and bring him back. More or less. Another possibility for the reason that Bungie hasn't shown anything off yet is somebody big may die, or Savathun may return, or Savathun's ghost may be the antagonist. The point I'm making is that the narrative could be, hypothetically speaking, so dependent on reveals that showing anything would be a massive spoiler. I mean, for example, if they showed the seasonal activity and Siva was everywhere, the jig would be up. And while I've talked about Osiris and Siva and Savathun coming back, those are just examples. We could go to the moon and deal with Eris and Ziva Arath. We could go to the moon and use the Vex portal to tap into the Black Garden, like in Season of the Undying. We could get a pirate crew together and sail the 7 seas in search of the One Piece. Number 2, Bungie could think that the season is amazing, but once again, and excruciatingly so for many, we've stepped into a war with the Cabal on Mars. So instead of having a week where everybody is bitching about the reveal, and another Cabal season, basically Bungie wants to avoid negative press by keeping everybody in suspense with a mystery box. Because in this hypothetical, the season is more Cabal, but they think it's amazing, and want people to be pretty much playing it before they start bitching about the subject matter. Callus has returned, and is setting up shop on Mars. We could see a return of both the Leviathan and a further expansion of Mars, which would again fall back into huge spoiler territory. I could even see this new dungeon tying into the hypothetical return of the Leviathan. Number 3, and this is a possibility that we have to consider. The content of the season, the story, the horde mode, not horde mode, is not the draw for Destiny this season, and Bungie knows that, so they're not leaning into it. Between an Iron Banner update, Solar and Arc 3.0, an entire sandbox revamp, and of course the elephant in the room, the sold separately dungeon, the possibility isn't zero that Bungie's focus was not necessarily on the seasonal content of Season 17. After all, how much advertising does a new horde mode, not horde mode need? And that could explain Bungie's lack of focus on the seasonal content and more everything around it. Now don't get me wrong, I do think that this is unlikely, but the possibility isn't zero. And the reality is, we won't know until we know. And with that said, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, 2 positive, 1 negative. However, with Witch Queen, with Season of the Arisen, the current creative vision behind Destiny is the best it's ever been. So while I personally am cautiously optimistic, I am definitely more optimistic than I usually am cautious. And I haven't been that way in a long time. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Remember to like, subscribe, feel free to donate to my Patreon if you're feeling particularly generous. But above all else, stay frosty.